We're back, and you're listening to Executive Leaders Radio broadcast from the Fairfax County Chamber of Commerce. This is your host, Peter Schwartz, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Ken Falk, who's the founder of an organization called Shoulder to Shoulder, Inc. What is Shoulder to Shoulder, Ken?
Peter, Shoulder to Shoulder, Inc. is a small service-disabled, veteran-owned company that focuses on IT and multimedia solutions for wounded warrior healthcare.
Give us an example of exactly what that means. Give us an idea of what you did.
Sure. So the first project we're working on is an application. Started off on the iPad and has just made its way to the web and working now on a handheld solution. But it's a project called IMPACT, and it stands for Injured Military Personnel Assisting Combat Troops. And the project is basically an application that ties wounded warriors out to their units that are still in Afghanistan or getting ready, and shares the lessons learned from their combat experience and specifically the dates of their injuries.
And because that is now available to do, what's the benefit?
So the benefit is, as I tell everybody, if you kind of draw a circle and you put a wounded warrior and his family in the center of the circle, on day one they kind of think their lives are over. But on the outside of the circle is success, and we can define that however you want. It could be a disabled veteran like myself who started a company and sold one. It could be a Navy SEAL who lost a leg and might be back in combat. And the challenges from getting to the center of that circle to that outside ring are significant. And what we hope to be able to do is connect guys that are at the center of that circle to people along the continuum getting out to the outside of that circle.
And your product helps that happen.
And our product makes those connections.
Great. How old's the company?
The company's 18 months old.
And how big or small today?
We're 10 employees and somewhere in the neighborhood of about $4 million in revenue.
Why does this work matter so much to you?
It matters so much to me. I'm the founder of the Wounded Explosive Ordnance Disposal Warrior Foundation. We're a small nonprofit that takes care of wounded bomb disposal personnel and their families, takes care of them in the sense of providing financial resources. And I've just been working with the wounded guys and their families since this war started, and I've just become very passionate about it and just trying to I see a lot of opportunity for guys and gals who just remain completely inspirational in their healing process.
Take us back to where this all began for you.
So I'm a retired Navy veteran myself.
Master Chief.
Navy Master Chief Petty Officer. I was busted up real bad in a parachute jump back in March of 1989. I was initially told I may not walk again. And I was back to full physical standards within 12 months. And I think I took the challenge from the doctors, and it really changed my life. I mean, I had a very successful career after that. I made it to the highest enlisted rank, and it's just kind of where it all started.
Well, you didn't take a desk job. You did some interesting things, so tell us about that.
I did. I was a bomb disposal guy in the Navy myself. I started off early in my career doing underwater bomb disposal work, kind of transitioned in the 90s to working with special forces units and Navy SEAL teams. Was an instructor at our school. I did an exchange tour with the British.
So what is it about you that needs to do that kind of thing?
I don't know the answer to that.
Were you like this as a kid? I mean, what were you like as a kid?
I was adventurous as a kid.
Adventurous. This is way out there.
No, I was an athlete. I was a hockey player. I played almost every sport growing up as a kid.
But what was the attraction? I mean,
I was fascinated by scuba diving my entire life, and if you're a Navy bomb disposal guy, you're also a diver and diver trained. And I think that was the initial attraction. But as I transitioned kind of out of the underwater field and into the booby traps and landmines and those types of things, I became more fascinated day by day, and I just love the community. It's really a band of brothers.
How did you come to find the Navy?
I went to Texas right out of high school to play ice hockey in 1980. Spent a year in
Texas and ice hockey?
Yeah, I figured the further south I got from the Canadians, the better chance I had. I tried out for a team. I didn't make it, and I stayed there for a year, working in an ice skating rink as a night manager kind of guy. And I was always fascinated by the military. My grandfather, who was a big influence in my life, was a career Army, and I just thought, the Navy would be a great place to learn how to dive.
Yeah. How long were you in the Navy?
Almost 22 years.
Why did you get out?
Why did I get out? I ask myself that every day. I got out, I think, because I was a Master Chief, and early on when we went into Afghanistan, I had asked my bosses to send me, and they thought that I was probably too senior for it. I had just come out of Bosnia. I had some combat experience with the British, and I wanted to go to Afghanistan and work with the young guys we were sending into harm's way that had no combat experience. And I remember one of my bosses saying, we really don't need Master Chiefs in Afghanistan. And now this was really early on in the war, and I just thought, there's no way I'm going to sit at a desk and wait for the war. So I got out and I started a company in the government contracting space and started going to Afghanistan and Iraq as a contractor.
So that's a pretty big shift. What was it like to start a company?
I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My dad owned a very successful construction company here in D.C. My brother ran that at one time. My grandfather owned a trucking company. I think I knew when I got out of the Navy I just didn't want to work for somebody else. That was my biggest motivation. Started as a consultant, just single individual consultant. I had a company. I brought 2 partners in within 3 or 4 months of starting, but it was exactly what I wanted to do. I had a job, I had a customer, and I was excited about getting on with the next phase of my life.
And the business was successful. You ended up selling it?
Very successful, yeah.
How long did you have the business?
I started it in March of 2002, sold it in February of 2008, ran it for 2.5 more years, and left the company in June of 2010.
When did the idea of shoulder to shoulder occur to you?
So I left, my first company was a company called AT Solutions. I left that company in June of 2010 and took a year off and went to school at Georgetown and did a master's degree in public policy. And while I was there, I basically had a lot of free time. And don't tell my professors, but I had a lot of free time. And I was spending time in the hospitals. We had 56 injured bomb techs in 2010. And I just started getting very close to some of these families and the young wounded guys and gals that were there. And in March of 2011, we had our first triple amputee. I'd seen a lot of guys who had lost both legs, but we had a young guy that lost both legs and an arm, and it left an impact on me. And I just started thinking, what else could I do? And this young triple amputee, the first thing he said to me when I met him was, I can't wait to get back to Afghanistan.
For some people, seeing that kind of thing would break their spirit, and they just couldn't handle it. What is it about you that allows you to do this?
I'm inspired by these guys. I mean, they like I said, a triple amputee, 6 days into his hospital stay in Walter Reed, first thing out of his mouth was, I can't wait to get back to Afghanistan. And although we may not get him back to Afghanistan, we're going to get him to success, and that's what motivates me.
What's the thing that you most want to communicate in this interview about a wounded warrior?
I've been asked that question a lot. People say, "What do you say? Do you say thanks for their service?" It's a little bit, of a nicety, if you will, to thank people for their service. But at the end of the day, don't be afraid to walk up to these, heroes. And ask them what you can do to help, and they need help. They know they need help, whether it's a new ramp at the front door of their house or just a handshake. But just don't be afraid to ask.
As if you don't have enough to do, you're starting something else called Boulder Crest Retreat for Wounded Warriors. Tell us about that.
So my wife and I live on a 200-acre property in Bluemont, Virginia. And we started bringing, during 2010, 11, and 12, or since 2010, we started bringing wounded warriors and their families out to our estate. And about 70% of our young enlisted military, who are primarily the folks that get hurt in combat, come from rural America. And when they get medevaced, we put them in the hospital in Bethesda. And what I found by getting them back out to the countryside is really a change in their spirit and attitude. And My wife and I have all this land. We had 37 acres of it that were really open fields and meadows, and we never did anything with it. So we went to the county and asked them if they would rezone it, which they did, and allow us to build some log cabins on the property for wounded warriors. And that project started in June of 10. We've been working hard to get a site plan, to get it rezoned, and we broke ground in May of this year, and we're about halfway through the construction phase. So a big goal of opening this retreat, an hour outside of D.C., hour from the hospital, Bethesda, June 1st of 2013.
Love to have you back when you're open.
That'd be great.
What would you say your proudest moment up till now is?
I think breaking ground on this retreat, probably. I've got a new grandson, which I was there for the birth of, which is probably my proudest moment, my daughter delivering that young man. But breaking ground on this retreat's right behind it.
Mm-hmm. What's the website address, Ken?
The website for Boulder Crest is www.bouldercrestretreat.org.
And how about Shoulder to Shoulder?
Shoulder to Shoulder Inc. Shoulder number 2, shoulderinc.com.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Ken Falk, who's the founder of Shoulder to Shoulder Inc. and the Boulder Crest Retreat for Wounded Warriors. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. This is Peter Schwartz, your host. We'll be back in a moment right after this Business Spotlight. Business Spotlight.